It's long been said that hindsight is a wonderful thing. Usually it's in relation to something that's gone wrong that you could have foreseen. In my case, with hindsight, I can see now how God was influencing me, even though I denied him, to the point of preventing me from doing things that I might later have regretted. Like many others, I came from a Christian family. My parents were devout Methodists, father was a steward, mother was a Sunday school teacher, and they hid their favourite liqueurs in case anybody from the church came visiting. But they loved Jesus. When I was in my teens, I realised I didn't have to keep going to church with them, and one day I upset them greatly by refusing to go. And so I started on a path heavily influenced by the age of flower power. Thankfully, I never touched drugs, but I did become a bit of a boozer, probably addicted to Newcastle Brown, which is how, perversely, I met my wife Jean in the bar of the Royal Hotel in Sutton Coldfield, where she was a waitress. Believing in free love, I was also a bit of a womanizer, and when one evening I chatted her up, one of her older colleagues, who was like a mother to her because she was having difficulties in her marriage, warned her not to have anything to do with me. Fortunately for me, she ignored the advice, and eventually I moved in with her and her two daughters, Karen and Marianne, whom I began to regard as my own. 3 years later, we decided to get married, but because we didn't want to be hypocrites, we chose a registry office, again disappointing my mother, my father having died by now. Later, we had another daughter, Sally. Unbeknown, we were being prepared, and not being able to entirely shake off our Christian upbringing. Jean's brother and sister-in-law belonged to a free church, and having sent Karen and Marianne to the Brownies, we decided that Sally should go to the Girls' Brigade at Sutton Coldfield Baptist Church, because it didn't do Jean's brother any harm, so it can't do her any harm. For many months, I would take Sally and a friend to GB and to Sunday school at SCBC, dropping them off and coming back later, often waiting for them in the car, trying not to catch the eye of the car park stewards. Not having been to the church, we were unaware that they went into the full Sunday service before leaving for Sunday school. Had we been aware of how cruel that was, we might not have sent her. But God knew better, because at the age of 7, Sally became a Christian, something she didn't tell us about, until one day she burst out with, "You keep sending me to church, but you never come yourselves." The guilt hit home. And coinciding with the opening of the Covent buildings, Jean went on that first Sunday, and I went with her the next. To say I was surprised would be an understatement. I only knew the prayer hymn, prayer sermon, final hymn format of my parents' church, which was boring. Years later, I would take my mother in a wheelchair and find it anything but boring, because I had changed and I knew what it all meant. But here in SCBC, I found a welcome and good music. More surprises followed. We met Eric Isherwood and found that his wife, Christine, and her twin sisters used to go to the same school as Jean. Eric also amazed me because he remembered everything we spoke about the next time we saw him. We also met Ted Roberts when we sat down in front of him one time. We knew Ted as the school bagman. By then, we were having difficulties with our middle daughter, Marianne, who kept bunking off school. Hence, we received a visit by Ted. You couldn't be more wrong about someone. And so we went back repeatedly, attracted by the music, by the friendship, and strangely enough, by the baptisms. However, I used to make a note of communions in my diary so that we could avoid going to them. Gradually, we were drawn to the church, and thinking it was like a club, we wanted to know how to join, but we didn't know who to ask. Then one day, something happened that had never happened before, and only happened once afterwards, excepting for Jehovah's Witnesses. There was a knock on the door. I previously said how difficult it was tending to a family, having a full-time job, studying for a degree. I would shut myself in the loft where I got an office with orders not to be disturbed. So when Marianne answered the door to two strangers from Sutton Coldfield Baptist Church, she sent them packing. I heard them from the loft, and wanting to talk to them, I rushed down 2 flights of stairs, opened the front door. They'd gone, disappeared. When Jean came home, she said she'd go to the church office and asked who they were. In those days, as Donald says, door-to-door evangelism was something that worked. And so that's how we came to know Les Jones and David Blake, the 2 guys who came to the door, and their wives, and they've been friends ever since. Les invited us to go to his house group. Exceptionally, as we weren't even Christians, let alone church members, and so we began to find out more about SCBC. That created problems, because we quickly realised that to join, we'd have to be baptised. Not just any old baptism, but full immersion baptism. Thanks to a childhood prank, Jean was and still is hydrophobic, scared of water to the point of not even washing her face with water, but using wipes instead. Our discussions about joining started to turn into arguments, and we stopped talking about it. But I'd begun to pray. The first time, when 2 Mormon missionaries came knocking on the door, the second door-to-door experience. It was a sign that something spiritual was emerging when other faiths started taking an interest. Then came the night that we asked my mother to come with us to a baptism. She thoroughly enjoyed herself after years of strict Methodism. And at the end, it was usual to have an altar call when whoever was leading the service would invite anyone wanting to give their lives to Jesus to come forward to the front. We stood. I closed my eyes. I prayed, Lord, if you want me, you'll have to do something about her, figuratively pointing to my left. The next instant, Jean touched my hand and said, do you want to go to the front? I didn't need asking twice. She took me to the front, leaving my mother thinking we were getting out before the rush. Several things happened in that moment when my life changed. First, Jean was asking me, knowing that it meant she'd have to go underwater for the first time in her life. Second, my wife, who never draws attention to herself, was willing to walk out in front of 500 people. Third, God opened my eyes to something unbelievable, his love. In less than a second, he showed me how much he loves me and everyone else. I felt connected through him to everybody, literally everybody in the world. The feeling has never left me, and it brings tears to my eyes every time I speak of it. Not once have I doubted him. The first verse that I read in the Bible that I'd never taken seriously before was Isaiah 40, verse 31. But those who hope is in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. It was written some 3,000 years ago, describing me, exactly how I felt on that day. Nowadays, if anyone should ask me, "Are you ready for Christmas?" I can reply, "I've been ready since 8:15 on the 14th of December 1986.